So for this first attempt at venturing out and finding this new direction of mine, the so-called new direction in art, I wanted to go back to something that I love, which is my sketchbook. More specifically, just the drawings that I've done in my sketchbook. I would often flip through my old sketchbooks and find drawings in there that I am really fond of, and I've always wanted to do something with them, but for some reason at the time, like it wasn't the right timing, or I was just scared of painting it or whatever, because I perceived it to be difficult for some reason at the time. I think maybe mostly I felt like I wasn't at the level of skills to be able to execute some of the ideas. I have this weird thing where I think that you can only execute an idea once, and I think partly because I just hate redoing something. I put my heart and soul into that like first attempt, and so the thought of having to redo something, I most of the time don't go back to the same idea that I had. So when I got attached to some of these sketches in my sketchbook, I would just say like, oh, I'll save those for a rainy day. I'll save them for when I feel ready. The sketches that I was really fond of from back in the day, they were consistently these clowns that I would draw. These really moody and expressive clowns. And I realized that I never really took any of those sketches to like a fully finished piece. The most that I've done were those little clown sticker designs that I did in watercolor. And I guess one of the latest paintings that I've done were these so-called clowns. I call them clowns, but some people might call them something else. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I noticed that I haven't really taken them very far, even though I seem to be really drawn to them when I am drawing in my sketchbook. Like I guess that's kind of how I like to express myself in my sketchbook. And so why don't I try to take this somewhere instead of always putting it aside for a rainy day? Something that I was thinking of while I was drawing this for an idea for a painting was how drawn I am to faces and expressions, and how, like, why haven't I done more pieces where I just make the face the entire focal point in the piece, when that is something that I really care about the most. Like the types of paintings that I'm personally really drawn to, an artist that comes to mind immediately, someone I am really inspired by in recent years, is a Swedish artist by the name of Björklund, and I've mentioned him probably a few times on my channel already. And of his works, the ones that really appeal to me the most are his portraits, and more specifically really close-up portraits, the ones where it's literally just a floating head, which made me realize a lot of things. Like, why do I feel the need to do more than what I want to do? If a simple, very focused portrait is the thing that I love to see the most, then why do I feel the need to embellish and bring all sorts of other elements into it and make my life more difficult, at the same time diluting the statement that I want to make? Whenever I go to an art gallery, I really just like the simple portraits. Like, those speak to me the most, above and beyond the like super epic, huge scenes with like 100 people in them, all beautifully rendered. But like, those are surely like so impressive, and I could never achieve that level of just skill in my lifetime. I don't think I'll ever be able to achieve that. But in the museum or gallery, the works that I'm personally most drawn to are these simple, like single figure, usually just like bust and up portraits. I think something that I will be working on as I go along is finding ways to really strip down my work to the basic, like fundamental core of what it is that I want to say, and resisting the temptation to add stuff just because it wouldn't make sense without it or it needs more context. For sure, the biggest issue I had with the piece was the left eye. Looking at the picture, first of all, I just couldn't figure out how to really paint it with the right expression that I wanted, because I just didn't understand the anatomy of the eye properly. So I lost count of how many times I had to repaint that area over and over again. And I finally, after like, no joke, like 2 days working on that eye, I finally landed on one that looked decent. I was ready to just say, hey, this is the best I can do. And it looks fine. I guess this is it. This is how it's gonna look. But then I took a step back and I realized that this eye was just competing with the right eye, which I wanted to be the focal point. I would actually cover up the left eye with my hand or a piece of paper, and I thought it looked so much better without it. And so I knew that I had to completely like knock it out. And so that's what I eventually did. I'm amazed at how well the paper held up because I went over that area so many times. But yeah, so at a certain point, I was like, am I going to do something here that I might regret? Like seriously regret, and then cry about it later? Because I don't know if this paper can handle any more reworking. But is that going to be worth it? Am I going to end up with a statement that I'm happier with in the end? And am I going to end up with something that is not competing with the focal point and therefore lend itself to a better looking picture overall? It was a really tough decision to make, but I decided I'm not going to be happy with it the way it is now, the way with the eye looking pretty like distracting. I feel like up close it doesn't look bad, but like when you look at the picture zoomed out, I found it very distracting. And so I made the really tough decision to knock that eye out, make it almost indiscernible. Like you can't even tell that that's an eye really. I really wanted to give it more of an abstract treatment to it. And it took me a little while to even get to this because I just kept trying to paint an eye. But after many attempts at doing even that, I realized, no, I have to just like wipe it out completely. But the jury is still out on whether or not that was the right decision. I personally think that it looks better now than it did before. And so even though it makes me really angry that I spent all that time trying to paint an eye to look proper, it wasn't necessary because I ended up just knocking it out anyway. Like I didn't need to spend all that time trying to paint an eye. I think if I'm making the face the focal point of the piece, then I really should next time take some time, do a really nice pencil drawing to nail down that value statement, because that pencil drawing, it should be enough to tell you whether or not it's gonna look like that in painting, because it's really mostly about the values. The values are carrying the bulk of that painting, and the values will tell you how the painting will look like in the end. I've decided to be quite careful about how I describe my works from this point and on while I'm in this kind of stage of exploration and discovery, because I really don't want any external opinions to sway me in any way or just like affect me even on a like psychological level. Like I just don't want any outside influences to affect how I feel about the work personally, and I just want to be able to come to conclusions on my own. And so I'm just going to like share the work but not really talk about how I feel about it yet. I don't know, I'm still confused. I'm still like figuring things out, and so I just don't want to come to any conclusions too prematurely. So here is the painting. It's out there now. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it come together, even though I probably cut a lot of it out because it was just me painting that eye over and over and over and over again. So I hope you enjoyed what was left of it. And all that said about like not wanting to jump to conclusions too quickly and like be influenced by outside voices when I'm going through this process, I am still very keen on like hearing what you guys think about the work on a more like objective level. Like that's why I don't want to bring any of like my feelings into it right now, because I just want like an objective view on the art and not have what I'm going through at the moment to affect that in any way. So I hope that's clear. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!